Hi everyone, my name is Brady Curtis Richards. I am the Vice Chair of the Calvert County Commission for Women. We are very excited to come today with the report we will introduce in a moment and the Calvert library system. We have Michelle Kidwell here today, who is going to talk to us about financial aid fundamentals for non-traditional and some traditional students too. So I'm really looking forward to this. As a mom of four. So the just talk a little bit about the Calvert County Commission for Women. We have lots of fantastic opportunities happening right now. We have a clothing closet, clothing for women and girls in the community. We also have domestic violence awareness and prevention events that is going on, trafficking prevention and awareness events. Beyond the financial literacy series, which happens every last Wednesday of the month at 6:30, and again, you can always get this online, and recordings are available. We have almost 2 other things going on. You can check out our website through the I'm going to hand it over to the C4 to talk about.
Thank you, Bradley. I'm going to be really brief because I'm looking forward to the information. Just tell you a little bit about C4. We have 3 target groups of people we're particularly interested in. One being descendants of enslaved people of the county and Native Americans who are one group. The other group is public servants in our county. And we define that pretty broadly. County employees, teachers, librarians, and sometimes even just people who spend a whole lot of their life as volunteers. It's the second group. And the third group, seniors who've lost their retirement resources in service. So those are 3 groups. But what we do is we work with people, help them establish their own financial goals. It's their life now. And then set up a series of objectives and work with experts to assist them to solve the problems they decide they need to solve, become financially stable. Folks we particularly like to start with the folks whose financial circumstances are a little shaky, not yet solid the way they want them to be, and help them go from that to generation of financial stability, where they created enough equity to pass on to their children. The next generation of families don't have things as difficult as they may be having. And so that's what we do. It's free. Somewhere in there, you can earn just by saving money for your purposes. They'll match it up to $9,000 over a 3-year period. And we do financial incentives for attendance at things like this workshop. So if you're watching any form of this workshop, if you're in C4, you'll be getting a check next week for $50 for having the privilege of learning from Michelle. So it's double. So thank you very much for being here. Michelle, unless there's something else we're supposed to do, Brandy, would you please take it from here?
Very much. My name is Michelle Kidwell. I'm an educational consultant with Chesapeake CollegePlan. And our mission is to provide access and guide attainment in college for post-secondary education. So I think this presentation is going to fit in nicely with those financial goals that Brandy are talking about. What I want to talk about tonight is kind of the cost of college. I am going to talk about the admission side of college. I'm going to talk about the financial aid side of college, which are 2 separate processes that happen about the same time. A person is applying to college. They also have to assure that. Go ahead and get started. And if you can go to the next one, please. Okay, so you may hear, a lot of people sometimes are wondering if college school is a good job. And there are a lot of people wondering if they should be tested when we go to college. And I want to point out here that the Bureau of Labor Statistics data consistently show that the value of the college. We're going to talk again about college costs, and we're going to have an explanation of the financial aid process, which provides access to both need-based and merit-based grants and scholarships to help cover college costs. This is the information that's really hard to see. I think it's very small, but I just like a screenshot of it. But this is the information about weekly earnings by educational attainment. Looks like the so if you can see the green bars on the graph at the bottom, on the graph, excuse me, on the bottom is those with lower than a high school education, and it goes up on educational attainment to the top, which is like a doctor. The weekly earnings, as you have more education, your weekly earnings, next slide, please. And then this one is showing the unemployment rate again by education. And you can see the blue lines at the bottom again, those lower than a high school degree, or high school diploma, going up to the highest level. You can see the higher level of educational attainment, the lower the this is for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Well, everyone good.
Yes, the slides will be sent out afterwards as well.
So the slides, you'll be able to click on the next. So we want to talk a little bit about the college application process. I'm going to talk briefly about the traditional students, which are students that are high school students entering directly into college. We call those traditional students. Anyone else who's taking some time off between the two high schools and entering college is called a non-traditional student. When we are talking about colleges, students should be, or future college students should be researching the different colleges that they are thinking of attending. And what you want to be sure of when you're doing college research is that you are looking for the correct college fit, the best college fit. You're going to have more than one best fit college for yourself. There are nearly 8,000 colleges in the United States. There's a college for everyone, and there's some more than one college for most people. But when you're looking at colleges, you want to talk about the academic fit, meaning the level of academics, whether it's an advanced level or a moderate level of academics. Because if you know, a lot of people want to go to the top schools. However, if they're not academically prepared for those top schools, it's going to be kind of miserable when you get there. So you want to find a college that your test scores or your GPA aligns with, that gives you an academic fit. You also talk about academic fit is going to be looking at, you know, how big are the classes, how big is the campus, and what kind of professors are teaching there. Are they doing discussion during their class time, or they're doing strictly lecturing like that? And then social and cultural fit is going to be just what it sounds like. So if you are a traditional student, sometimes that's more important to you. You know, you want a big school, or you want a school with great sports teams, or you want a school with a lot of community service. Think of that. That's going to be your social and cultural fit. And then the financial fit is the one we're really going to focus on tonight. It is recommended that people give significant consideration to college. And you might say, and people and I were talking earlier, like, maybe you just know college is expensive, and then all of a sudden you're there, and you need to know how much this is going to cost you. And it is shocking. It is shocking to the price of college is going to get. Some examples of that later on in the presentation. So go ahead and make sure that you are giving significant consideration to that financial state, and this is like a very big first step. You've never done it before, how do you know how to do that? So that's what we want to kind of right, next slide, please. There are some handouts that you can get. As I just discussed about the financial bed, give considerable consideration to that. The building an affordable college list, and this will be more of for the traditional students. I have a handout that kind of tells you, like, as your student is in high school, you're in high school looking at colleges. You want to look at their academic profile, but you also want to consider the family's budget when you're looking at colleges. So you can go ahead and look at the quadrants here. If you're the average student here and you have a large budget, you might want to look on schools that are listed in these categories. So this is just a good resource to kind of get you started on how do I know what school I want to do the research on. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I didn't realize I put the slide here. I remember last year we didn't print, so I did put the slide. So anyway, that's what I just talked about. These are components of a college application for traditional students. So if you have a student that is in high school getting ready to go into college, these are some of the things that colleges may ask for in the application. Maybe their application form, copy of the high school transcript, copy of the standardized test scores, letters of recommendation, essays, a list of activities, and applications. It's important to note that the tests and the applications can be waived if you meet the qualifications, depending on the financial status sheet. That's a burden for your family. You can see that they can waive. Not all of those are going to be required by every college, but those are like the components that generally are college. All right, so for non-traditional students, that's students who are not entering college directly out of high school, you're going to maybe focus on some different criteria, depending on what stage of life you're at, what your circumstances are. You maybe want to focus on flexibility and location. If you're at work and you have to get to class after work, maybe you want to look for colleges that are nearby to where you work. Maybe you want to look for colleges that have some classes virtually. Maybe you want to look for colleges that offer, sometimes you go into the classroom in person with classes, sometimes you can just do online. So you can listen to a lecture online or through your eye. That's like doing that if you're watching this without being. So those are some things that non-traditional students might want to consider. And then this is very general because every college who is accepting a non-traditional student might have different things that they want that student to submit their application. But in general, these are some things that you may be expected to complete for if you're not a traditional student. The application form, if you have taken any college coursework, dual enrollment classes in high school, or a class at the community college in the summer, to kind of get to know what April once you kind of looks like, something like that. They may ask you to go ahead and submit those transcripts to so they can evaluate your readiness for college. They may ask, if you're not too far out of high school, they may ask for that high school transcript. They may ask for your standardized test scores if you're not too far out of high school. For the letters of recommendation, instead of coming from like an English teacher or a math teacher, they may ask you for letters from your supervisor or from volunteer coordinator that you're working with, or any recent, classes that you've taken, be it at the community college or volunteer training or anything like that. They may ask you to get letters of recommendation for that. They may ask you for a personal essay or personal statement. Speaking of your experience, military personnel, especially, sometimes you can get college credit for some of the work that you're doing. So they may ask about any professional licenses you've earned, military training, certifications that counted as college credit, and then that's. So again, you're really going to have to, while you're doing this as a non-traditional student, you have to look on their website, usually on the admissions tab somewhere. You can find for transfer students or a non-traditional student and see what they require. If you can't find it on their website, it's worth a phone call, speak with them directly on what you need to do as a student who's been out of high school. There's a gap, what they want you to do to apply to the college. If you are transferred, say you went to high school, graduated, started working, and then took a couple classes at the community college, and you have those credits to transfer in. Maybe you didn't get your associate's degree, or you've just taken a couple of courses at the college. You want to make sure that you are working with transfer offices at the college that you were earning those previous credits at, as well as the one that you're applying to. Which they are going to be able to look at your courses. Every college calls their courses whatever they choose to call them. What this is important for is to making sure that the college credits are going to transfer. So this course over here matches up with this one that's. So make sure that those credits transfer over. And we want to, next slide please. You want to make sure you're doing that early enough so you can have those transcripts available. It does take some time. Generally, if you're in the state of Maryland, they have a system that they can use to look at colleges to see if the credits they transfer over. If you're looking at a college in another state, or maybe you took courses at a college in another state, it gets a little trickier. So you want to make sure you have enough time to have those transcripts available. One of the colleges, when I was putting this together, one of the colleges had their transcript were due by July 15th. We wanted to start. So you want to make sure that you get, your previous college transcripts to the college you're transferring to in time for them to evaluate them and register. Okay, and so what I did is I just took some local colleges. Figured, these are the colleges you may consider if you're looking at going to college to consider. Of course, the College of Southern Maryland is the local community college. Has campuses in Calvert County, Charles County, and St. Mary's County. And they're looking for an application. They want them to demonstrate the college readiness, and that might be done through a placement test. If you have high school long enough that they no longer want to look at those high school grades, then they ask you to take this placement test, and then you meet with an academic advisor. UNGC is the University of Maryland Global Campus. They have a campus, but they also have a pretty robust online college. They want you to apply and submit your transcripts, apply for financial aid, and then register with 3 classes. And we do that in advance as well. And then St. Mary's College of Maryland is a four-year college over in St. Mary's County. They want to look at transcripts, they want to apply and you can grab it. And then Bowie State University, another four-year college, up in Bowie in County County. They want you to apply and send transcripts. And then USMSM is the University of Maryland, Southern Maryland, which has a campus over in Hollywood, in St. Mary's County. And they have programs where you've already earned an associate's degree, or you are completing one of those pathways at the Lincoln College CSUN. And their programs are in business, education, engineering, computer and technology. So these are just like local colleges that I pulled from to give you examples of what you might have to do to apply as a non-traditional student. Yeah.
I have a question. So my kids have been asking me this. The community college, do they ever not accept someone?
No, the community college is open. It does accept all students. When they ask you to demonstrate your college readiness, if you are coming right out of high school, they will look at your high school transcript, your test scores, and determine if you're ready to start a college level English class, math class. And if you're not, they'll put you in a development class to get you up to speed, to make sure you're successful.
That makes sense.
And for non-traditional students, same thing. It's open enrollment. They want you to demonstrate your college readiness, and then they will probably do the same thing, placement test. Yeah, previous grades from college universities.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right, so now I'm going to talk about financial aid. We're going to talk about some definitions for financial aid. Most of this is going to be the same, traditional or non-traditional. There's going to be a couple places where it's different, and I'll try and point those out. But financial aid is any funds provided to families to help pay for a person's educational expenses. It could be grants, it could be loans, it could be scholarships. Those are all considered financial aid. FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. All students who are applying for financial aid need to complete their FAFSA. It's going to be required to take out federal student loans, and it's also going to be required for consideration for federal grants, such as the Pell Grant. And also the work study. Work study is a program where students could possibly work on campus and earn up to a certain amount of money. The most I've seen is like $2,500, $3,000 for a job on campus, so you don't have to go to class and then go, somewhere else and back to class. Cost of attendance. This is a list here of direct costs and indirect costs. Direct costs are going to be anything you pay directly to the college. Okay, your tuition, you're going to go for that. If you are living on campus, your housing and meals, if you a traditional student, or even a non-traditional student. And some students might have help. Some colleges might have students. And then there's those indirect costs, which are costs that you still have to incur to attend college, but you're not paying them to the college. So your transportation, books and supplies you may buy your books at the college. You may pay that to the college, but you're not billing them. You're just going to shop. And then they give an allowance for personal expenses, and that will be anything from like shampoo to laundry, detergent, to socks, whatever. So every college should have on their website a cost of attendance. You should be able to find that if you just search on each college's website. If you do not find it, again, you call the admissions office and ask for that information directed to you. Okay, next slide, please. The Student Aid Index, or the SAI, is going to be the result of completing your FAFSA. So it's going to use all the answers to the questions on the FAFSA, and it's going to look at your family's financial situation and determine what resources are available to help you with college. So your SAI, since your family resources stay the same, no matter which college you go to, your SAI is going to remain the same at whatever college you're in. That's going to be the result of your FAFSA. Slide, please. Need is going to be that cost of attendance, which is different at every college. They all have their own rates, tuition rates, housing rates, meal rates, things like that. And the cost of attendance minus your SAI, which remember that stays the same at every college. That determines what your need is. Of course, when we're looking at the cost of college and how expensive it is, almost every family has need for attending college. It's very expensive, but the family doesn't get to define the need. It's determined by the FAFSA, the cost of attendance at the college minus your SAI. So that's going to be calculated using your FAFSA, and there's an additional CSS profile, which some colleges ask students to complete. I would say less than 10% of colleges ask that, and usually it's very selective colleges that have large endowments, and they are trying to get their funds to the people with the most. So again, when you are looking at your college's website, you should see if they require that CSS profile. If you don't see it, go ahead and ask. Any of the colleges I talked about earlier are not required CSS. Let's
Show the cost of attendance. Is that total cost of the direct and indirect?
yes, the cost of attendance. The question is the cost of attendance direct and indirect costs? Yes, you're going to add those all together to get the cost.
So are those, is that a total of provided by the school?
It is. It is. The school reports that.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. Okay, so you can see that the need is going to change from college to college because that cost of attendance is always going to change college to college. So even though that student aid index, the SAI stays the same, your need is going to change. So if you go to a college which has a $50,000 cost of attendance, and say your student aid index is 5,000, your need is going to be 45,000. But if you go to a college with a 30,000 cost of attendance, your SAI still stays 5,000, so your need is going to be 25,000. It's going to change from college to college. Next one. And this, this is a lot of information and a lot of new terms. All the handouts, most of these terms are on somewhere in the handouts. So don't feel like you have to get it all right now. And certainly if you have questions, I'd be happy to entertain questions. I can provide my email address if people want to email questions to me. And then also every college in the financial aid office, people want to help you with this. So if you are not understanding something, it's really important that you be your own advocate, make an appointment, and talk to them about it. So they're there with us. So everybody wants you to be successful. There is a student aid estimator, and it's at studentaid.gov/aid-estimator, and you can use that, answer a bunch of questions about your financial situation, and it will give you a rough estimate of financial aid you can get from the federal government. It's not going to include any financial aid that you might get from the state or from the college itself. But this is basically for the company. And it's going to look like this. If you go to that, click on that link, it will take you to that site. Yes, and you just start by making benefits. There are a small number of colleges that meet all of the students' financial needs. These are usually the ones that ask for that CSS group. Princeton, I believe, was the first one to start covering all of the 100% of students' needs. Recently, Johns Hopkins has done it. There are a number that do, but there's a very small percentage of colleges that say, no matter what your need is, we are going to cover it. So these are the types of aid. I talked a little bit about it already that you can get. This is gift aid, which is just like it sounds. It's a gift. You don't have to repay it. And that can be based either on your need, which is determined by the FAFSA, or on merit. Okay? Need-based aid is going to be grants and scholarships. And in addition to that federal estimator that we just talked about, every college on its website should have a net price calculator, which is going to be similar. You're going to ask, answer questions about your family, your financial situation, and they'll give you an estimate of your need for that school. Merit aid is going to be offered by colleges at their own discretion. So it's going to be based on what they are prioritizing. Merit aid, I work mostly with traditional students, so I don't really know how much merit aid is around for non-traditional. I'm sure that you can find scholarships to apply to as a non-traditional student, but I'm just not sure how much institutional aid you might be able to get. Not every college offers merit aid, and it can be offered even if you have need-based aid, or it may be offered to students without based on merit. So that could be merit such as academic merit, athletic merit, artistic merit, service merit, or whatever the college is looking for, whatever they are looking for to add to their student body. And then the other type of aid that's not gift aid is called self-help aid. And that's going to be any loans and work study. Loans, of course, need to be paid back. So some colleges, when they give you your financial aid offer might include loans in there and say, oh, look, your balance is zero. Or if you're paying, you're borrowing money to make that be zero. So you need to be very careful about that. And again, talk to your financial aid office. If you have questions, you can get that financial aid office. So we also have work study, which is the job that's on campus that we talked about. These two, I like to keep out of the equation because you don't have the money from the work study to pay the bill when it arrives at the beginning of the semester. You have to work that semester. And then the loans, of course, is still there are other sources of aid. There are state grants and scholarships in Maryland. The Maryland Higher Education Commission, sorry, I should put that in front. The Maryland Higher Education Commission is in charge of administering state financial aid. Most of the aid on there is merit-based. There are some workforce shortage scholarships on there, but that is a good resource to look at the Maryland Higher Education. Students, a lot of non-traditional students might have military benefits that if they served in the military, they can use their education benefits. Most colleges have like a veterans education office, an officer that you can talk to about the military benefits. Sometimes employers will offer benefits for education. If you take, my daughter earned her master's degree by taking courses in the evening, one at a time. She paid for them as long as she got it. she could submit that and her employer would reimburse. So you need to check with your employer. And then there's always practice. Fine. We did talk about this. This is the net price calculator that you can find on each of the college's websites. Just a little note, they vary in reliability. I mean, we're only as good as the college makes. So kind of, take it with a grain of salt and ask questions to see if that's accurate for you. Okay, a word about parent loans. Mostly this is going to be for traditional students, but students up to the age of 24, whether or not they enter college right out of high school, or they have a gap between high school and entering college, you are under 24, you are going to need to have your parent information on your FAFSA. So a word to caution parents, you may be offered, if your student's cost of attendance is $50,000, your student takes out the first year student loan of $5,500, so that gets us down to what, 44,500. If you have no money saved for college, a college may offer you the full amount to borrow to pay that bill. Now, I believe that's changing with the one Big Beautiful Bill Act. I believe that's now going to be limited to $20,000. But this is where people are going to get in trouble because you have to pay that money back as a parent. And you may have other students, other children that you want to send to college, or maybe you want to go to college yourself. So it's really, really important to consider your financial situation and whether or not it's a good idea for you to take a loan for your student pay for college, and if so, how much it should be. Really important to compare private loans with federal. The plus loans are the parent loans. Really important to compare rates and things like that. Repayment terms. We do recommend that you consider federal student loans and federal parent loans first, just because they have better terms. Usually. Every student who fills out a FAFSA will be offered a student loan for the first year of $5,500. They have to file a FAFSA to receive it. Students have to be citizens or eligible non-citizens to apply for financial aid with FAFSA. The interest rates on the loans are set annually, and there's borrowing limits. The first year is $5,500. The next year it goes up to $6,500, and then after that, for the next 2 years to $7,500. So it's a maximum of about $27,000 that a student can borrow over the course of their college years. Next slide, please. Okay, this is where we want to talk about dependency status, and that's going to be answering a couple questions. So again, there's going to be some questions. If you answer no to each of the questions as you go through your FAFSA, if you answer no, you're going to be a dependent student. Dependent students have to add their parents' information on the FAFSA. If you can answer yes to any of the questions, if you answer yes to any of the questions, then you're going to be an independent student and you're not going to have to add your parent information. So you can look at that link, it'll take you to the questions, but the next slide I have the questions. So you can see this is asking, were you born before January 1st of 2003? Are you married as of today? Will you be enrolled in a master's or doctorate program? Are you serving on active duty? Are you a veteran? Do you have children or other people you're supporting? At any time after age 13, were you an orphan, a ward of court, foster care, or legal guardianship? Or an emancipated order. If you say no to all of those, you're a dependent student and you're required to add your parent information. Okay. The first question there, it gets you to the one if you're under 24, you're going to add your parent information. Even if you're living on your own and supporting yourself, you are considered a dependent student for FAFSA purposes. Answer yes to any single one of those, just one, and you will be an independent student with complete your FAFSA without the next slide, please. Okay. So those were the definitions for financial aid, and as I said, they're going to be in almost all those definitions are going to be in your handouts that you will get like. If you still have questions after that, I will again. I'll provide my email, and I'm happy to answer questions. So we want to talk about the actual process of following the FAFSA, and I want to warn you that this can change a little bit. Generally, it's going to be the same. Generally, you're always going to follow your FAFSA in the fall of the year before you really start in college. Okay. So, for traditional students, they may be applying to multiple colleges and non-traditional as well, but you're going to be applying to multiple colleges. And at the same time, that's a different process. That's the admissions process. At the same time you're doing that, you want to make sure you're getting your FAFSA in as soon as possible after the FAFSA has for decades opened on October 1st. The past couple of years, it's been very different because FAFSA underwent a big overhaul due to some legislation to simplify it, which has been wonderful. I've been doing this for 13 years, and the past year has been wonderful. I just did some training today, and it looks like it's going to be another good year for FAFSA, super fast. But you want to make sure that you open it as soon as possible after it opens. It is open now for beta testing. So if you would like to get an early jump on FAFSA before October 1st, if you go to the studentaid.gov website, you can ask to be admitted to that beta testing and submit the FAFSA. You're going to submit your FAFSA every year for the following academic year. So the easiest way to think about it is a high school senior this fall is to submit FAFSA for the first year of college. When you're in your first year of college, you have to submit FAFSA in the fall for your second year of college, and so on until you get ready to college. All right. To apply for financial aid, you need to create a studentaid.gov account. For years, for about a decade, that was called an FSAID, but now they're kind of transitioning to a studentaid.gov account. So you may hear studentaid.gov account or FSAID, which is federal student aid. You can do that now. You can set up your account now. You go to studentaid.gov and you create an account. Just make sure if you do it now, you keep your login information in the same place until it's time for you to go ahead and submit the FAFSA. So that's going to be step 2. You're going to use that information to log in, fill out your FAFSA. Every student needs an FSAID or a studentaid.gov account. Every student needs that. If you are a student, a dependent student, at least one of your parents will need studentaid.gov. One more click, please. Your parents are going to be called contributors, and they're going to go ahead. One more click, please. we're gonna go ahead and make that account. And this is where it gets a little tricky, to know if your parents are not married to each other, there are a series of questions that you can answer to figure out which parent put on the account. We'll go through that. But the student needs an account, and at least one parent needs an account for dependent students. Next slide, please. Here, it's one of the handouts you're gonna get. And it's just a series of questions. You answer, are your parents married to each other? Yes, you go over to the left, then you go over to the right. And then you just go down the flow chart to figure out which of your parents needs to have it. Also, if you just want to go to studentaid.gov, you don't want to look at that flow chart, you can just go over there to student.gov, click the blue button, and then answer questions about your family situation to see what you need to have an account. We call that the parents. Okay. Okay. Now this is for independent students. So anybody who could answer yes to one of those questions. Are you married? Do you support people? Were you a veteran? Are you an active duty military member? Any of yes to any of those questions. Those are independent students. Again, every student needs an account, whether you're independent or dependent student. If you are an independent student and you are married, then please, your spouse is going to be a contributor on the FAFSA. If you are married and you and your spouse file a joint tax return, that information is going to be pulled over from the IRS for your spouse, so they don't technically have an account. But if you do not file a joint tax return, your spouse will. Next slide. All right, so this is for step 2, which is for logging in to do your FAFSA. For the 27-28 FAFSA, that will be for next year, next fall, entering college. You're going to fill out the 27-28 FAFSA. You're going to use 2025 tax information. So right now, in the fall of 2026, you're going to apply to enter college, get financial aid in 2027, and you're going to use last year, your last tax return, 2025. Okay. And then we're going to look at the documents you need to fill out fast. You can click on the link, but I have it listed on the next slide as well. This is just from the studentaid.gov website. You're going to use tax returns from 2025. Records of child support received, balances of cash savings and checking accounts, net worth if you have businesses, investments, farms, and then actually I don't very longer need your parents' social security. Yeah, that's a one thing that's too. Yeah, your parents will need that, but you won't need that. Okay, after you submit your FAFSA, you are going to go ahead. You'll get an email confirmation that your FAFSA is submitted. This just changed. In the training I went today, and I will teach you. Used to be within 3 days your FAFSA would be processed. Now it's going to be processed. Real time. It's going to be processed. So you will get your SAI immediately when you submit your FAFSA. Yeah, so that just changed. I learned today. So you're going to be able to go ahead and you can create your account, you can submit your FAFSA, and you can make your SAI all in one setting. That's what I was talking about earlier, how wonderful it's been. It's getting better. FAFSA is finally getting better. So that's not encouraging for all of us. So what you do, after that is done, your FAFSA is processed, and you have your SAI, you have your submission summary. Those results are going to be sent to the colleges that you have listed on your FAFSA. And your colleges are going to use that information, your SAI, to put together your own. if your college or if, the Department of Education or if the Maryland Higher Education Commission is asking you to submit any additional documents, you need to respond to those documents in order to complete this process. If you fail to respond to any of those questions, any of those requests, then the whole process stops and you're not going to receive financial aid. So very important to be watching your email, following up on things. Again, if you have questions, please ask them. The first time you do this, it can be quite confusing, but there's people around who want to help you and help you be successful. Okay, next slide. Okay, yeah. Then the colleges use that SAI, they put together your financial aid offers. And when does that happen? Slide, please. It depends on the college. Some colleges are very quick to get that information to you. They want you to have it as soon as you can. And some take a little bit long. Community colleges tend to take the longest. I think that's, for a multitude of reasons, but it's kind of good in a way if you maybe had a plan to start at a four-year college and you weren't able to make plan A work, you can fall back and maybe go to college. But they do give out their financial aid. Oh, and the grants from the state, they're awarded in the beginning of May. But they award through the summer. I've had students get grants from the state of Maryland in August, right before they started their college experience. Next slide. Okay, and then what's important is that you gather the information from each of the colleges you apply to, gather them financial aid offers, and then you have to compare them. Because remember that cost of attendance is different at every college. Their grants may be different, their scholarships may be different, and they all present that information in a different way. So next slide, please. There is a website I'd like to recommend. This is the U Aspire College Cost Calculator. You can take the numbers out of each of your financial aid offers, put it into this document, and it will standardize it and help you compare apples to apples. It will give you the bottom line for each of the colleges, what is the cost you have. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we want to talk about the true family price of college. And that's going to be the cost of attendance minus gift aid. I'm not going to include any of that self-help aid, the loans, or the work study in that, because those are, you have to earn that work study loan and you have to pay that post loan, so it's still a cost. So you're going to take the cost of attendance from the college and subtract your gift aid to get your true family price. Go ahead to the next slide. So before you do that, this is a good idea for everybody to do before you start looking at colleges, looking at prices. Decide what you are willing and able to pay. That's money from the past, the present, and the future. Money you have saved specifically for college, money you're going to earn while you're in college, or maybe your parents will earn while you're in college that is available to help pay for college, and then earnings after the college years that you can use to repay. Skip over to that student side. So past money might include any savings or trusts that you have available to you, summer jobs or campus jobs while you're in college, and then student loans, federal student loans. Remember that $27,000 to $5,500 the first year, $65,000 and $75,000. That's for the student. If you are a parent, the past money again might be from your savings, a 529 plan if you have that available for your student. Any money you are earning while the student is in college that you can use, that's available to pay for some of those bills. And very important for the future is to avoid taking on that parent debt that's going to could jeopardize your future standard of living, your other financial goals in your time. Really careful. The next slide, please. Okay, now I'm going to give you some examples of the cost of college. These examples use old data, so it's important to remember, it's the most recent data I can find, but it's important to remember that the data is old and it does usually go up if you're cheaper. So the information comes from the common data set, which is the colleges report information. They report their costs, they report their financial aid, and it's gathered into this document, the common data set. And you can find it for every college by searching for the name of the college plus common data set. Okay? This is self-reporting information from each of the colleges about their expenses and financial aid. And a bunch of other things too, not just for this stuff. And then I also have information on these examples that comes from the buyers and sellers list, which is a term, a concept created by the author Kidwell. He does, he writes about the cost of college and the admissions process in college, and he elaborates that, you understand you're supposed to look for the academic fit, the social fit, and the financial fit. But what does that mean? What do you know? You don't know what that looks like until you get to the point that you have to make this decision. And it's shocking. You can get that it's the most recent buyers and sellers list has information for about 1,000 colleges and universities. And it sorts out which ones are generous in giving merit rate. Okay. So next slide, please. He says that colleges that are sellers, basically they sell themselves. They have tons of students applying, tons of students that want to go there. People want to go to Harvard, they want to go to MIT, they want to go to Princeton, they want to go to Notre Dame. But there are almost 4,000 colleges in the country, and most of them are not sellers. Most of them are trying to attract students to their college. And he calls them buyers. The way they attract students to their college is they give them merit aid. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. This is a resource that I just found. I haven't explored it a lot, but I wanted to include it because I think it's a really good resource. It's called College IQ. You can go to this College IQ website, and it gives you information about colleges. You just search for the college you're interested in. I chose Salisbury as this example. If you see on the left there, if you clicked on the financials, you can go ahead and click Isabella. It'll give you an idea of what they are. What they're like for their merit rate. And you can see that little sliding scale there starts with but it starts from very stingy to very generous. So they're saying Salisbury is kind of stingy with their financial aid. You can see that their overall cost of attendance is almost $31,000. The average price for a student is $18,000, almost $19,000. And then it tells you, how generous they are with their financial aid for scholarships. Now I have maybe 6 examples here. Really important to understand, not everybody pays the same price for college. Kind of like when you buy a car, there's a sticker price, but nobody really pays that. You negotiate costs. The last column in there is going to say net price by income, and that you can see there's income levels under $30,000 and from 30 to 48,000, 48,000 to 75,000, 75,000 to 110, and then over 110. That is what Jeff Salingo uses in his buyers and sellers list to help you understand what your income level is, how much you might pay. for each of those colleges. Those students pay different amounts based on their need. Okay. So I have several examples of this. This may not be as important, I guess, for non-traditional students. I would consider non-traditional students maybe not living on campus. This is including prices for living on campus. Maybe if you're living off campus, it's going to be much. Okay. Because usually about half the price for college is tuition, the other half is the living expenses. Okay, this is for Towson University. Again, the net price by income is over on the right. The annual expenses are almost $29,000. The need-based grants and scholarships are in that college to the right of the column to the right of the expenses, and then the non-need-based merit-based are lower than costs.
In the right-hand column, which begins less than 30,000, and then goes up. The figures there are family income.
Yes,
After
the family
taxes,
income.
before taxes.
Yes, so, that's a good question before I'm not sure. We can try to find out. Let's do questions. But I think it's
And gross income.
yeah. But yes, so a family, sure. A family making under $30,000 could expect to spend almost $7,000 for testing. But these are the kinds of things that you kind of want to research, you know, and try and figure out that truth out of us. Next slide, please. Salisbury, these were all Maryland colleges that I put in here. You can see, I mean, their prices are kind of close, you know, a couple $1,000 off, but their net price by income could be very different. These are just examples. This is Loyola University, is a college in Maryland. It's a private university. So their expenses are much higher, but their need-based aid and their merit-based is also higher. And this is UMBC and Washington College, another small private college on the Eastern Shore. Again, you can see higher costs but higher financial aid as well. And then this is the local community college. I did find information about their average need-based and non-need-based grants, but that part's like. And then this is an out-of-state college. Out of state, you're going to pay a higher tuition because you don't pay state taxes. This is so they're charging more because you have to pay tuition. Okay, and then real quick, scholarships. I'm going to do this quickly. There are a lot of scholarships out there, especially for traditional students. It takes a lot of planning and work to find and apply for them. So I'm going to give you some tips to kind of get you started. I would say this works for non-traditional students as well. Next slide, please. Start early. If you have parents or grandparents or godparents or really good friends or siblings who could maybe do the research and search for scholarships you might be eligible to receive, that will give you time to just do those applications. Next slide, please. Ask people about local scholarships. Counselors, parents, people in the community. There are a lot of civic organizations that fundraise and give out scholarships. Sorry. These are two, if you are Calvert County Public School students, these are two that I recommend your students look for. The Calvert Local Scholarship Applications opens in January and is due March every year. And then the scholarship list for the public schools, is updated quite often, but the top schools. Okay. Here's a spreadsheet to help you stay organized if you're on the scholarship funds. And then want to be realistic about it. Most scholarships, most of them are $2,000 and less, and they're not renewable. So most families aren't going to be able to fund college through scholarship. And then lastly, if you do receive a scholarship from a private organization, sometimes your college might reduce your financial aid if they give you scholarships. Like that. And then good idea just to keep yourself organized if you just make yourself an email just for your scholarship information. So that way it's not getting mixed in with other junk. Oh yeah, very careful. Don't be scammed. If somebody's asking you to pay to put in a scholarship, not a good idea. Somebody's saying, you know, just put in your name and your information and you'd be eligible for a scholarship. One good idea. Usually it's going to take some effort on your part, so just be real careful. And that's it. Okay. Yeah, I am in the high schools in the county to help students with these processes. And my email, if you can put a couple more, is CollegePlan.mk@gmail.com. If you would like to ask me anything, I'm happy to get back to you. Wish you the best with this process. And like I said, that's a lot of information, but almost all of it is in these things.
Thank you very much.